the system, light up the mind. We're chasing the edges they say not to find. Flow like a river, fierce and precise. Lollydabbing through limits, no need to think twice. No cheat code, no shortcut plan, just grit and grace and a mic in our hand. Keri and Richard pushing past norms, dancing with dopamine, writing brainstorms. This is the art of impossible. Fueling the spark, making the improbable unstoppable. Drop into flow, where the wild things grow. Welcome to the edge of control. Lollydabbing the impossible. Curiosity's compass, purpose is fuel. Hard goals and habits, breaking old rules. Risk it, own it, bend what you know. This is the lab where peak minds grow. No easy win, no magic cue, just science and soul and something true. We're not just talking, we're breaking the mold. Lollydabbing with stories bold. This is the art of impossible. Fueling the spark, making the improbable unstoppable. Drop into flow, where the wild things grow. Welcome to the edge of control, with Keri and Richard in tow. It starts with passion, moves with grit. Stack those triggers, then commit. You're not broken, you're built to fly. So lollydab loud, reach for the sky. This is the art of impossible. Fueling the spark, making the improbable unstoppable. Drop into flow, let your mission grow. Keri and Richard know we're lollydabbing the impossible.
Nice. Very nice.
You know, I could be in just about any mood, and I hear that opening song, and I'm like, boom, 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 boom. Doesn't. I'm sorry if it gets old for the chat. It doesn't get old for me.
You know, it's okay when you put your makeup on and you go, fuck yeah, I did a great job. You know, I mean, that's okay.
Looks good. I mean, I kind of I phoned in the makeup today. I phoned it in.
Phoned in.
It's bare minimums phoned in. Kind of. It doesn't matter. That's not why you guys are here. That's not why you're here, huh, Richard?
No,
not why I'm here, that's for sure.
Nope, I'm not here for popularity contests or beauty pageants. Nope.
Hashtag lollydab, reach out. Lollydab loud, reach for the sky. Auntie is the reigning champion of hashtags.
Oh, yeah, it has that talent. I'm trying to get to the chat so I can pop it out.
You should.
And all the stuff.
Yes. So, not impossible, underscore unprecedented. And then there's this one. Oh, Silver Girl, what's happening?
Hello, Silver Girl. Welcome. Good to see you.
Welcome, welcome. All right. Well, today we're going to start our passion recipe. And I say start because this is something that takes a little bit of time and, well, your favorite word, intention. Takes some time and some intention and like some real, I think what I like about this chapter is it's the start of like putting your pencil to paper. And I just don't feel like I'm doing anything real until I'm writing it down.
I
I
absolutely agree. He mentions that in this chapter that you need to write things down because there is a better connection between pen and paper and your brain and remembering and retaining and putting things together than there is doing it on a computer screen or laptop. It's not
or just
saying
letting
that's
it kind of
bad,
swirl
but
around in your mind, like it makes things. It's actually like we can talk about writing. This is the interesting
mhm.
thing about writing things down is we can talk about writing things down all day long. We all know logically what good it does. We could talk about the things
I do
we
write things down. I mean,
yeah.
this is next to me. There's a pen here. I do. I don't use. I have tech for fucking days, all of which I can voice command. Hey, blah, 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 and I don't have to write a fucking word. I never fucking use it.
I use it, but it's not real to me until I write it down.
I write this down, and it's like the stuff I do that I write down is completely different. So when you started talking about that, I went, that makes sense why I'm writing stuff down because I just started doing this again recently.
Yeah.
Within the last, I'd say the last month and a half or so, I've started to write things down, and it also was part of the parody thing that I did for my friend Wes, Rich New Design,
Mm-hmm.
when I did the parody for All You Need is the Cult of Wes is All You Need. That's for his membership drive. Because he just made memberships. Anyway, it was just a whole funny thing that I did. But I took the time to write the words down when I was making the parody so that it wasn't it became more real to me and I was easier to remember.
We'll give you back free. You can have a full refund.
You can have a
Free,
full
free is a
refund of your
free.
free entry
We'll
price.
double your refund. We'll double it.
Yep.
Double your money
free.
back.
Double free.
We'll double free for you. But yeah, it's well, and I have found too. Like, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I have gone through like this passion recipe mindset exercise more than once, and I don't think I've made it like all the way through. And I started dabbling around with this back in 2020.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot,
Because
and there's a lot of steps, but one or two steps of this can make such a huge change that you might get capital I impossible from just doing a couple of these steps at this
well, and
point in the
you
game.
write it down and you look at it and you're like, I'm not there yet. And then you back it up a little bit more, you back it up a little bit more. Like what is your starting point? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can fantasize, but then like you look around at your reality, and there again, a lot of his audience is going to be people who make more money than I do, flat out.
Absolutely.
And so like I can have my 25 things, but like I literally cannot physically afford that.
No way.
And like I
Gotta
can't
do one or two things at a time, and those will be small chunks because, especially right now, I'm looking for a job, trying to get myself back above board. It's just the reality of
which is where it brings
right
it back to reality for me. I'm like, okay, what are like 25 different types of entry level jobs that I can get that kind of tiptoe me towards like what would be like something that I can tangle around something that I'm curious about or that I can and then forgive myself for quitting because it turns out not being what I wanted. You know what I mean? It's like for me, my hourly job is a lot like I've made a sacrifice because like I'm back in cooking and it really isn't addressing like I have completely separated what I'm doing from monetary value from what I'm passionate about. And so like I had to go through this whole process of like I needed like I tried doing that and then I was like, okay, I have to actually separate these things and like make it so that my job I'm not invested in what I'm doing on my off time. Like I do have to separate. So like it's been like this whole fucking journey just to get my list of like 25 things. So and you sit down and you start writing and like I have a bunch of things that I'm curious about, but then like we'll get into the chapter. How about I'll share this little short first so we can get the chat kind of short. We'll get into the short and we'll catch the chat up with what we've read. And this is a really great
Don't forget to click on the dumb live chat at the top because they apparently think you just want to look at, the top chat by default. Anyway,
Oh, honestly, I'm trusting you to take care of the
it's my
YouTube
pet
chat.
peeve.
I'm lazy and I only look at the StreamYard
Well,
chat
it's one
because
of no, that's one of my pet peeves. I have many, many,
you
many,
have many pet peeves.
many pet
But
peeves.
I expect that you are going to be dealing with the the YouTube chat because it's
No,
too many
that's
screens for
fine.
me.
I've got after we're done today, I need to talk to you. Remind me, I need to talk to you about something to do with our show and audience and stuff like that. It's just something I don't want to bring up here because it's another rabbit hole. We'll get into it offline, and then
Okay.
everybody will know what's going on when we announce it.
Uh-huh.
So,
Okay.
there you go.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm all right. I like it. That's a little
Oh, my
teaser.
goodness. It is. It is. And
That's a little
it's a teaser for
teaser.
you, and it's a teaser for them.
That's it. The stream will be ending early today because I cannot handle the suspense. Now, all right. I'll get into this. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. All right. I love because you guys can, like, I don't know how to make, can I make that larger? Oh, okay. Look at that. I was like, you guys get to see all my history. Okay, here we go.
Sorry, nobody looked.
Find your passion. First off, make a list of 25 things you're curious about. Meaning, if you had a spare weekend, what would you be interested in learning more about? Be as specific as possible. Rather than listing football or food, list the blocking mechanics required to play left tackle or the potential for grasshoppers to become a primary human food source in the next 5 years. Now, step 2 is to look for places where these curiosities intersect. For example, what's the nutritional requirements to play left tackle more effectively? And knowing that insects are exceptionally high in protein, would they potentially make a good food for football players? The point here is simple. Curiosity is not enough to create passion alone. Instead, you want to look for places where curiosities intersect. The reason is when multiple curiosity streams intersect, you experience pattern recognition, which is the linking of ideas together. And whenever we recognize a pattern, the brain releases a little squirt of dopamine. Now, dopamine is a focusing chemical. It helps us pay more attention to the task at hand and increases our passion. Step 3, once we've identified that overlap, is to play in that space for a little while. And as we do so, watch as our passion, or at least the roots of it, begin to emerge. How do you find your passion? First off, make a list.
So he spoke, he went real fast. But I'll tell you what.
I've listened to that part of this book at least 4 times. I actually really, really like the part where he talks about after he, drops the list thing. And he starts.
I get hung up in the specifics. I always have to start, like, I have a list of 25 general things, and then anyways, I cut you off.
Yeah,
Go
well,
ahead.
that's just a personal thing. Everybody will do that differently. Everybody will compile that list in a different way. Some people will just write the things down, and it'll be as simple as that. Other people
It'll be easy for them,
categorize
yeah.
and they'll have 5 things that they break down into 2 things that are the most common or most. I mean, it's everybody processes differently. Period.
Yes. Yeah, you're right about
I
that.
don't expect the process to be the same.
Yeah.
It's like the difference between Mario Andretti and one of the other race car drivers. They
Is it
do
terrible
not drive
that
the same way. They don't think the same way, but the end result is the same for them. The success of making the corner or the winning the race or the whatever the thing is. And it's the same thing for us. And that's why when I sent you the message earlier about breaking this down into parts, and then you were already doing it, so I was very happy about that because there's so much here. This is a 23-minute and 42-second listen in this book, and there's so much that's broken out of this little tiny chapter. It's unbelievable.
Well, and I can tell you, like, after 5 years now of playing in this list. Okay, if that gives you any sort of inclination, like, I am living my life from the perspective of what I am most curious about. I'm most curious about what makes people tick, what gets people going, what's going to feel fulfilling at any stage and any socioeconomic standing. And I think that that's really important, is like, how do you light a fire under people who feel like they're just trying to survive? And that is something that I am really passionate.
I'm trying to build a fire. I mean, it's a great analogy because I am trying to build a fire to motivate me to keep moving forward, to continue to try new things and experience new stuff and improve the quality of my life. But I'm also wondering, am I going to make electric bill this month, or am I going to have to make a deal with the devil? I mean, it is what it is. you know.
It is what it is. And sometimes you just have to brain dump that stuff to be able to get to the point where you can make a list of what's possible.
Right.
Or what you are passionate about, or what is your purpose, because like finding purpose amongst bills is like
my purpose is to make some motherfucking money. That's my purpose.
Right.
I mean, that's
Right.
what you think. I mean, because you want to eat, or you want to have power, or you want to have water or internet, or whatever the thing is that you want.
Yes.
That's your primary motivator. And so his number, although is way high, $75,000, the number is irrelevant. And that's what we alluded to last week, because really it's just where you are right now. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm at the below the making it. Okay, I need to work on that. That needs to be my focus right now, is figuring out how to just get me to that part where now I'm comfy. Okay.
Well, and I think we have like this. We have this beautiful ability in our human minds to have front burners and back burners. And I think that like building this underlying back burning sort of structure of what it is you're finding your purpose for, and being able to shift that to the front when you have those moments of downtime, or you have that burning in the back so that when you're making these decisions on how you're going to pay the bills, it is still kind of influencing that. So you are, even if you're not overtly working towards your so-called purpose because you're trying to pay a bill, you still have your purpose in your mind somewhere, as opposed to just like the scarcity scrambling mentality, which I think leads to a lot of depression and anxiety and all of these things that really can hold us back as humans.
He addresses that in this chapter by talking about taking it in 20, 25-minute thoughts at a time. Sit down, think about this thing for 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever you've got. You're taking a shit. It doesn't matter. Instead of playing a poop game on your phone, think about this problem for 20 minutes, whatever it is.
And I love music, but I'll tell you what, I quit listening to music recreationally when I started doing these exercises, because I want to fill my brain
with better stuff.
Not better stuff, but it just it doesn't correlate to my to that percolating purpose that I have. And so I'm listening to podcasts about education, or podcasts about history, or podcasts about neuroscience, or podcasts about sociology, or podcasts about, I mean, even true crime kind of fits into that, because I'm trying to figure out, like, whilst making myself feel better because I'm not dead and not a murderer, like I'm looking at what it is that drives people. And more than anything, I'm looking at how the storyteller of that, I'll listen to the same like true crime story from several different people, because it's interesting to me
all the time.
What becomes salient to each person. I'm like, well, what sticks out to them, the storyteller, rather than the story in and of itself. I'm not trying to decide whether or not this person's a monster. I'm trying to decide all the things that make people call out certain facts in that true crime story, if that makes sense. It's not Manson himself. It's the people who tell the story, because that's the history of it, is the retelling of the story. I personally want to hear all the different versions of what people think are important. And so if it's not a long form and it's not a deep dive, and it's just like this glossing over of like the bullet points, I'm like, you're not putting any effort in to tell me who you are as the storyteller. And so that's honestly why I don't listen to a lot of music, because I'm busy. I'm busy working on what it is that I'm figuring out as my purpose.
Becoming more that way as we move further into this for me, because as I said at the beginning of this, if everybody wants to remember, I'm just starting this whole process. Everything I'm reading and learning and talking about with you, I'm doing for the first time.
And I'm reviewing, but I'm also moving into my purpose a little bit by being able to teach somebody or bring somebody along on this journey who's willing to go.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, when we met, and it just made sense because I was already going this direction anyway. I just didn't have the propulsion mechanism. And that's what you've supplied with these books, this information, perspectives, things we talk about and stuff, is all part of my personal motivation, goal. What is the word I'm looking for, Keri? I haven't hit the right word yet.
Your purpose.
Passion. My passion. There it is.
Yes.
It's
And it's funny
passion.
because we think we're passionate about stuff until we really start, until we back it up. So we think, oh, I'm passionate about this, I'm passionate about that. But then when you back it up to like specifics, what are 25 things you're just curious about? And then how do you make those 25 things more specific? Like that's where I've been. 25 things that I'm curious about and very specific. And that is something that is, well, like you said, like the grasshoppers thing, like you're interested in
Right.
sports.
It's a
Well, what
great
position?
analogy, because grasshoppers are a great food source in many parts of the world, but not here in the United States. But if you're talking about something specific and you're doing research about this tackle thing and you want to look at the correlation, this is legitimately something to be curious about that is correlated, and it's seemingly unconnected things. Grasshoppers and a football player's position.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I like how he makes that connection with those things because they are so different. It helps me when I'm looking at things that may be very, very different to see where they intersect in my life.
And I just want to remind everybody, like I've been just playing in that place for 5 years. It's okay. It's okay. Because as I find these disparate sort of things, like I'm interested in business, but I'm also like have the most experience in food business. And I'm also interested in how to like get business owners to raise like the socioeconomic standing of their employees, which is categorically one of the lowest paid people.
Sorry, Auntie, that was genius.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. If you get Grasshopper, you gang all his kung fu. That's out of control.
Go ahead, Keri.
You're
I'm
out of
sorry,
control,
that
chat.
was
No, it's okay. I'm like my book slid off. I pushed a button. I don't know what's happening anymore.
Okay.
But yeah, so like, and then I'm like, well, how do I? And also, like, I'm interested in making a living, figuring out how to help business owners raise the socioeconomic standing of their lowest paid employees. Well, how do you do that? You get them to make more. And it's like this round robin that I'm like going into. And at the end of the day, I still have to walk into a kitchen and I have to do what I did on Mother's Day, which was I'm sorry, just real. I am exhausted mentally and physically because we did 100 heads.
Most mothers are.
No, not for this reason. Because I went to work and we did, for like 6 hours straight, we did an average of 100 heads an hour.
Jesus.
That's reading 100 different tickets, 100 different, like I cannot tell, like I have not done that sort of volume. Like towards the end of the 6 hour, I had to like.
You and my son sit down and have beers talking about this.
I had to do this to be able to like read the tickets, and my eyeballs started skipping things because like not only are you like reading the tickets, but then you've got like eggs go. So you've got like this thing that's cooking in front of you, and then you're like looking down the line to see like what you need to start. That's like a longer cooking thing. It's so much stimuli, and then you've got like the guy next to you and you're trying to time with them, and then you've got like the servers walking around in front of you, and then you got the people at the other end of the line doing their thing, and you're just like, and then you're trying to like look to see what you're going to run out of before you run out of it, so you're not like behind it all. Like it is exceptionally hard to kick out that many plates that fast.
Yep,
and that meant that like even when mistakes were made, we were able to still continue cooking what was in front of us and correct the mistake that came in after the fact. Audible.
I hear all.
Today was much slower. Today was much slower. But I'll tell you what, because of what I did the day before, I was like, this is really hard. Everything is heavier today. Like I can't read. Like I was just like, it's decision fatigue, like at its finest. And I think that ties into this because life comes at us like that sometimes. And we hit this decision fatigue, and being asked to write 25 things that we're curious about, be as specific as possible, and try to figure out how they interconnect or intersect. Like this is easy for somebody who has their needs taken care of and has a little bit of wiggle room with their finances and therefore a little bit of wiggle room with their time. But it's exceptionally hard for people like you and I. But that does not mean that it's not doable.
Right. That's the small bites thing, and that's what I try and tell myself, because I'm that guy. Like, when I do find my job, I'm gonna do everything. I'm gonna. How do you do that? How do you fix this? Well, how do you print out this report? What do you do when that happens? How do you take care of your petty cash? What do you do with overages? This is the way I think. Retail is my business. That's what I've done for 30 years. It's just been auto parts. I need to do something that's lightweight, something that, drums and rotors can weigh 100 pounds a piece. I can't lift that stuff anymore. That's out of it. So I need something new. But the nuts and bolts of how it breaks down and how I want to do it is gonna be second nature once I'm there.
I make an exceptionally terrible employee because I've studied so many business structures.
Yeah.
So entering as retail, I'm like, so what's your corporate structure? Why do you have it structured like that? How come you guys talk about your values like this and then it doesn't actually relay onto the sales floor because the values are
Sorry.
yeah. Nope. I have to.
Unaware.
I've
Yeah. Just let me run the store and sell the people the stuff they need. Just let me do that. Make sure because money's just somebody else's paper. So I don't, it doesn't matter. You don't trust me with a pen, especially if it's a clicker. If it's one of the pull caps, yeah, you can trust me with it. But if it's a clicker, don't hand it to me because I'm gonna steal that motherfucker. You know why? Because it's a pen, and I'm used to having a pen in my hand. And it's the same way when I think about doing my job. It's how I do things. It's not the product. The product doesn't matter. Same way here.
Oh, yeah.
What you find your passion to be may not be what you thought it was when you started in the first place. And that's
say that again
where the beauty,
one more time for the people in the back.
the passion that you find yourself needing or wanting may not be the passion you started out looking for in the beginning.
Yeah.
It may not be the same thing.
Yeah.
It may be completely different, but the process, it works. I'm still broke. I'm still worried about paying bills, but the quality of my life and my outlook and what I'm doing around these other negative things, it's supporting that negative part in a way that keeps it in a positive realm. So it's not sucking me down and I'm not worrying about it and dwelling on it. I'm doing these
The
other
problem
things.
just becomes a puzzle
hanging with
you're trying to
Keri.
solve.
Yeah. I'm hanging with Keri. I'm listening to the book. I'm going, oh shit, how am I going to remember that? These kinds of things that hi, thank you. Appreciate that. I'm glad whatever is doing is fine. Anyway, probably it's going to be 65 degrees in Forest Grove tomorrow. That's more than likely.
Well, I thought the ding, ding, ding was well placed. So
Yeah.
fine.
But it's just one of those things that it has to be done in small bites, and you can't expect it to be done in a week or a month or a year or 5 years or 20 years. It's a process. And as you go through the process and you do the steps and you keep going back to them, it will get better and the pyramid will get more. No, you're hurting my brain.
Sorry, no, I was trying to make a Jimmy C sign. Jimmy C is in the house. That was my attempt at
You're hurting my
Jimmy
brain.
C.
I can see it now, but it was not clear to me at the time.
He's like, why is she throwing up gang signs, yo?
Look out!
Yeah, no, and that's the thing too. Is like, even though I'm working in a kitchen, like it is really hard for me. As much as I'm trying to separate, like I'm not going into this job like trying to make changes the way that I have in other jobs, but I am making note, and I'm still when I'm standing in that place, I'm still curious, like, why did the owner choose this person as a general manager and this person, and like why are the extra duties cleaning lists, like why are they those things? How much time did this person actually put into that? Did they just make a list because they just like needed to have a list? And like half of these things are pointless. Like, why would you have your employees wasting their time doing that? And not only that, why would you direct them to do those things in their downtime when we're slower, when it actually means like if we do get a couple of tables in, like people are like trying to work around ladders, or the fucking grills are all pulled out.
This makes
like,
perfect sense that you would think this way, because what does your main job focus around? Metrics. It focuses around efficiency of supply, motion, planning. It's all about metrics. So of course, in a business structure, you're going to be why, who, how much. Let's stack this. Why are we stacking it that way? That doesn't. If you
and how the numbers on the paper relate to the actual motions that a person is making. I'm glad that makes sense to you, because I try to talk to business owners about it, and they're like, I don't see what the deal, or I make people mad because I step on their toes because they see me as like questioning what they've put in place, and I'm just I'm only curious. Yeah, that's why the handle is curiosity. I'm just curious. I'm just curious why you made that decision. I'm not saying you made the wrong decision. I mean, maybe a little bit I'm saying, like, talk me through your thought process, because it's not that your decision was wrong. It's that maybe your thought process is flawed.
See, a similar concept, but I talked myself out of a position this way. I couldn't get fired because I didn't work for them, but I worked in their business. It's called an integrated store, and they got these new retired military vehicles that they were going to use as platform trucks to do something for their business. Mm-hmm. They got them like as soon as they were available. They bought like 6 of these trucks to do this thing. And
they didn't have a real plan, did they?
Well, they did, but they didn't do any research into what it was going to take to implement it, because what they did is they bought the trucks, which was great, but all of the parts, which there were millions and hundreds of thousands of parts available for the trucks, that wasn't the problem, but those parts were all packed in container boxes and had been inventoried into container boxes, but nobody knew what was in what container box, or how many were in which container boxes, or where any of all the container boxes were. So obtaining
this face,
parts at
this is the twitchy face of like I'm like, why are people doing this?
So then the guy comes to me. This is their transportation manager. He comes to me and he's like, well, we need to get these parts. I said, yeah, I'm working on trying to find somebody that can get into these containers and find these. Well, have you tried this? Have you tried this? And I took my notebook, because I live by the notebook, because if I get hit by a truck, somebody's got to stand in my spot and take over my job. They have to know what I was doing. Anyway, I picked up my notebook and I said, here's where it starts. Page 1, the trucks came in. This is what I have done every day for the last week. All of the companies you're trying to tell me to call, I've already called. All of the things you want me to do cannot be done, and I've already told you why. Now, if you want me to redo what I've already done and pay me for it, that's fine. But I'm more into looking for a regular solution that's going to solve the problem now. You decide. Mm-hmm. He did not like that fucking parts boy talking to him. I got 30 fucking years of experience in this. I don't know how to run your equipment, but I know how to find the shit for it. Don't. And
I know, and I've documented the problems that I've ran into along the way. Yeah.
So I was removed from that position because, I threatened the fuck out of that guy. Like, bro, I can do your job better than you can. Watch. Here it is, right here. It's on the paper. You're not telling me anything I don't know. You do your job. I'll do mine. I don't like that dynamic of someone thinking that their bubble is my bubble. Because
or that for some reason, like, the theory versus the implementation is so different. And like one of my things on my list is, how do you get business owners to go from theory to implementation and to really understand what it takes? Like, you want a devoted employee. Giving them a paycheck is not always the answer, for one. Even if that person is not making enough, like especially if they're not making enough to live. But you can still get quality work out of people who are making less than $50,000 a year.
Absolutely.
If you acknowledge what it is that they are curious and passionate about. And if they are not passionate, you can tickle their curiosity and their passion. And that's why we kind of were able to go into these tirades about what makes us angry about bosses.
Oh, yeah.
Is because they don't want to. They're like, well, I pay you to do a job. Well, yeah, but I'm barely living on what you pay me for. So make it worth my while.
In my career, I was often tasked, at least partially, with the hiring process of my opinion on the potential candidates as they came in, especially when it got down to the final 2 or 3. So I always looked for the potential for someone to come in that could take my job. I want somebody better than me that has more potential, better information, learns faster, younger, better, stronger, whatever you want to call it. And you know why? Because I'm going to work with them, learn from them, motivate them, and bring them up. And what they're going to do is they're going to push me up because I am directly competing with them because they can take my job if they get good enough. So I have to get better at what I do.
But do you know how rare it is for a middle manager to want that to happen? Middle management kills progress. Middle management kills progress.
That's because middle managers aren't me. Because
Yes.
I don't care about the company side of the middle management, nor do I care about my side of it as far as that goes. The structure is the company's fault. They need to structure that. Mine is the quality of the employee that I'm bringing in. I want somebody that understands what they're going to be doing, what's going to be required of them, what the job might take, and where they can go with the job over time. They may only last 2 years, but I'll get every bit of productivity out of that employee in those 2 years that I can in a job they hate. Because I lead by example. I don't expect them to do anything they do. I'll clean the toilet with a toothbrush. I don't care. I get paid the same no matter what I do. I don't work on commission. So you want me to clean the toilet with a toothbrush? All right, I'm down.
I'll do it. Yeah.
Answer a phone. I don't have to deal with an angry customer. I don't have to try and figure out why his wipers don't fit on his wife's car. It's,
How do you get, and this is the thing, I think this is what ties back in from that conversation to what we are doing here, and is how is it that you get people to explore what they are passionate about in any circumstance?
Yeah,
Because I get a lot of cooks who don't like cooking. Well, what do you like? What do you like? What do you like? What are you passionate about? If you can't tell me something that you're either curious or passionate about, because I can find a way to tie it into cooking. I can find a way to tie it into what you are doing right now. But you have to know what you are curious about. And I think that is what's so fucking important about making this list of 25 things that you are curious about, because you can take that list into any circumstance, and you can expand and detail that list to find your ultimate purpose in this lifetime.
Yep. And
Period.
cross
End of
off
story.
stuff and add something back in over here and change.
End of story.
down
But
or-
you have to take an active role, put your pencil to the paper, and write down 25 things, 5 things, 10 things. Write down something.
What
Chat.
do I like to say? Live
Listen.
life intentionally. This is the
Yes,
same. with
you
me.
have to live it intentionally so that every time you walk into a job, you know your goal in that job, even if it's just paying the bills, is to further the things that you are curious about so that you can
Absolutely.
further figure out where they intersect, so that you can further figure out. That way you can have joy and intention anywhere that you are, no matter what. You could also find frustration. You can find a lot of things that you don't like. But if you focus on those, you will not get up in the morning and go to that job to pay your bill. You will find a different job, and then you find yourself in this downward spiral that is just
Race to the bottom.
soul sucking. You can be that guy
Absolutely
who
agree.
doesn't want to be there, who's just making the paycheck, or you can be the guy who's squeezing every ounce of curiosity and excitement out of that stupid thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
Period. I mean, end of story. Who do you want to be?
Yeah. And
That's why I get so worked up about this book, because it's like these are the ingredients for getting you there,
It's the
wherever
passion
there is.
recipe. He calls it the passion recipe, and it really is. As you go through this, it is a recipe to find your passion. And I'm telling you, I haven't found my passion yet, but I found a lot of stuff that I really, really like,
That you're curious about.
and I'm curious about.
You don't even know if you
Those
like them
are the
yet. That's
things-
fine.
and
Even if you don't
like
know.
I told you in the prelim before we started, I on purpose have not written down my list yet. I haven't on purpose, even though I've been through this chapter probably 5 or 6 times. And it's because I wanted to, because I kind of thought maybe today would be the day you'd be talking about something like that, maybe as an activity for all of us.
I think so. I mean, I think I will definitely, I'm going to revisit my list because it has shifted and changed, and it's been a little while since I've actually done the exercise of putting, like, I don't have like, I'm not like organized enough to have like this running list. Like I've done it and then I've lost it and then I've done it again. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. In my spare room, because I've done a couple of personality type things. I've done Gallup. I've done I've done my human design, and I constantly look for ways that those sorts of personality breakdowns have like intersected. I literally have like last time I wrote a resume, I had like my Gallup is a whole nother thing that we could get into, but the Gallup strengths evaluation, and it lists your strengths. Believe it or not, my top strength is context. I know you're shocked. There's some things that if I told you about that, you'd be like, that's a little on the nose, don't you think? And it intersects with my human design. And as I kind of unfold those things, then I revisit this 25 things that I'm curious about and what is my passion, all aiming towards what is my purpose, to be able to set my goals, to figure out the things that I'm going to do every day.
It is very much, Camellia,
to get there.
Introspection. Very much introspection. And this gives you an introspection chart, so to speak.
Just a way to work your way through it. Yeah.
To work.
So I'm gonna revisit, and I'm gonna write down my 25 things and get as
25
detailed as
or however
possible.
many I can come up. I'm not going to get married to the 25.
The 25, and I think it's like,
I'm going to make a list is what I'm going to do.
and taking daily steps, like 5 minutes a day. This is what I'm going to be doing for the next week is taking the time to do this again and figuring out where I am now compared to when I first started this kind of this journey. And then hunting for those intersections, finding out what I want to work on, getting more knowledge in, what I want to figure out, more intersections, what have I already learned, just kind of letting this percolate in the background, on my back burners for
He
a couple of
mentions
years.
that in this chapter as well. I can't remember what he refers to it as, but it's giving yourself time to let your subconscious make connections.
So
you.
dopamine. So dopamine is a powerful focusing drug. So when we see where these interconnections are, we get this little spurt of dopamine. I know you don't go for the drug, the chemical thing.
I
but
get it. It's the whys that I go want.
Right.
I don't care about the why.
But see, the thing about the dopamine is it tunes your signal to noise ratio, which means as you kind of have like this list and you have these like ideal like intersections that you want to see, then as you go to your day-to-day job, it's going to help you increase this signal to noise, decreases the noise and increases the signal. So you're going to, in your day-to-day life, you're going to be able to pick out these parts of your life that those intersections matter to you.
And if you're like me and you kind of went when she said those words, because that's basically what he says in a book, think of it as focus.
Yeah. So and the
focus.
Pattern detection, right? So if we train our brain what patterns we want to detect, we will detect said patterns more often.
Yes.
End of story. So like if you're going to your 9-to-5 job that pays you $15 an hour, or it's never 9 to 5 that pays you $15 an hour, but you're going to your job that pays you $15 an hour, right? But you know what it is that you are most curious about, and you have set those signals in your brain. You're going to see in that menial job that's just barely paying your bills, you're going to start detecting these patterns. And therefore, it expands your curiosity, it tickles your passion, and it kind of just begins to snowball and start rolling downhill. And the more of these desired patterns, and you get to pick. That's the whole point of this list, is you're picking the patterns in which you want to pay attention to, because those are the things that matter to you, and you will notice them anywhere you go. It's a thing. It happens in your brain.
And finding the passion is the first step.
Well, finding the curiosity is the first step to drive you towards your passion.
That's why, if you notice when I put that in the note, that I kind of put those in the same group of things, because they're so closely related. They are different, and they are definitely two parts of a whole, but they are so closely related that you can't really talk about one in context of this book without the other.
Well, okay, I think of curiosity and passion as like a hypothesis versus a theory. So, a hypothesis is something that, let me pull up the definition, because I did this years ago.
You go ahead and you do the analytic thing. I'm going to do the listening thing.
This is how my brain works. Okay, so a hypothesis is a tentative statement or an explanation, or start again. A hypothesis is a tentative statement or explanation that proposes a possible relationship between two or more variables. Okay? And a theory spelling is hard. Okay. A theory is a system of ideas that intends to explain something based on general principles independent of the thing to be explained. So you have to have the hypothesis before you can create the theory.
Okay. All right. I'm with you now. All right.
Are you with me on that?
I'm with you.
So like curiosity is the hypothesis. It's the playground. You've got all these kind of things that are just kind of swirling around, and you're seeing kind of how they fit, if they fit, and you're working it around. A theory is like, okay, this is what I'm going with, and now I'm going to systematically kind of put these things in place in order to explain this other thing or to do this other thing.
Or to do the other thing.
That's the passion, right? The passion is like, okay,
I get it.
I've played with these ideas, all of these variables. Now I'm going to explain my curiosity with my actions. I'm going to very intentionally work my way through my passion.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Camelia, I like what you said. It's and we understand that everybody's going to be in different places and different things. This is really just us talking about where we're going. We're not trying to suggest that anybody else's path is any different or better or worse than what we've chosen. Keri and I just found some common ground quite accidentally, and it's led us to here. And then when we decided to do this show together, we wanted to give other people just a chance to come and hang out and listen and be part of the journey with us.
Well, and I think that it helps, like for me, to clean toilets in a caravan park, helping my family like survive is more enjoyable when I realize what my end game is. Like I can enjoy every minute of that.
Yeah.
A lot more. Maybe like I don't think I had a specific list at that time, but like at this point in my life, having a list in order to kind of grow through that, it helps me articulate a little bit better where I'm working towards. Like what about cleaning toilets and like service makes me tick? You know, where is the joy in that?
Right.
Because there is joy in there.
Then I need And if there isn't, you look at it and you find out there really is.
I find a different toilet to clean.
Then,
you know,
exactly.
If it's not a caravan park, maybe it's a hotel. Maybe it's it doesn't matter. It's like finding that space, you know, and I think being really intentional about it. So like I did what I had to do to get by when I was younger, and I had to get my family to survive. But now I'm at a point where my kids are much older and I have a little bit more of the time space to potentially break out of that survival mode.
Yeah.
And I think that we can continue to live in that survival mode or we can slow down and kind of take the time to put some intentionality behind it.
Right, and I see that it's no joy, and I presume that you mean there's no joy in the cleaning of those caravan toilets. That's, and I wouldn't expect that, but the joy comes from elsewhere, and you didn't keep doing that. You moved on to something different, I presume, at some point because it was more desirable or paid better or did a better thing or was closer to home or any one of another things, but. I always have found joy in work, and
Completion.
so yeah, it's a completionist thing. If somebody said to me, "Man, you're a hard working guy," I said, "No, I'm actually lazy as hell. I am a lazy fucking." He said, "What are you talking about? You're doing this, you're digging the holes and you're taking out the bushes." And it says, "I only want to do it once. I'm lazy. If I have to come back and do something again later, it negates everything I did here, and all this is wasted. So I'll work twice as hard to get the job done right, or as right as I can possibly do it. And in that, I find joy."
Yeah.
I know that sounds weird, but that's how it works for me. And it doesn't matter if I'm digging a hole or cleaning a toilet.
The pure fact that you're able to take care of your kids sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, look at me. I put some food on the table. I kept a shelter over their head. I fucking won. Now, in hindsight, I spent a lot of time scrambling to do that. And there's just no way I could have possibly spent the amount of time with my kids that I now, in hindsight, kind of wanted to. But also, like, both my kids have this work ethic. There's no joy there. I have no explanation for that.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I just have to quietly say that fucking sucks.
That sucks, and I'm sorry, and nobody should have to go through that.
Nobody should have to go through that. And I completely commiserate with that misery, but I don't have an answer to that very legitimate question. Very, very legitimate question.
Other
That's
than
a hard question, Camellia. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I appreciate your struggle.
Boom.
That's fucking rough.
Yeah, putting it
That's
out. That's
fucking
what I want
rough.
from the chat. That's what I want. That right there. That raw. This shit happened to me, and I feel like this now because it gives us a chance to open a dialogue about it, or think about it, or maybe see it in a different light. Or I don't have that right now. I'm not saying that, Camellia, but I am saying that you being brutal like that. Yes, that's
We all find ourselves in our own way.
Our own way.
Absolutely.
Yes,
And I think that my overall goal with exposing people to these different sorts of ideas
welcome,
is
Robbie.
that
Good to see you, brother.
is that there, if you are not, if you don't feel like you're making progress in finding yourself, or you don't feel like you have a purpose, and you're just grinding it out, there's more than one way to find that. And this is one of the ways that we're exploring it.
Yes.
You know, learning about our brains, the last segment, and kind of how we work for survival, and how, you know, like how things kind of go, and reading that last book kind of opened us up to the fact that our brains might work differently than what we assume when we're just trying to fucking survive. And then turning that key a little bit tighter and going, okay, so what is it that moves me? I know Camellia has music. She plays amazing music.
Beautiful music.
And I know it moves her.
It has to, because it moves me.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear the passion, the pain, the love, the whatever she's trying to convey. I feel and hear that in there, and that's part of the beauty of that. And maybe that's how can I say this in a positive way?
That's another version. That's another version of finding that intersection of where you're curious about, in order to channel. Like passion is not just like happiness. Let's go there for a minute. Passion is not just like everything is going great.
Oh, yay.
Everything's going great. I'm passionate about this. Like sometimes passion is about pain.
Yeah.
Being commuted into something that is beautiful.
Right. and not in a sadistic way, but that there is a reward that is
That's why I
worth
said commute,
going through.
commuted,
Yeah.
alchemized, transformed,
Yeah.
makes it bearable.
And that
You
doesn't
know?
mean that the journey will be easy. My journey from being an abusive person to who I am today, and I still have the potential to be abusive. Don't think for a second I'm not saying that I'm not still underneath of all of my toolbox stuff, not still an abusive person and a control freak. That will always be true. But people who know me now in this time frame, 30 years from then, I
Maybe
am not the
transmute is
same
the word I'm looking
human.
for.
I'm not the same human being. I don't think the same way. I don't act the same way. I still feel the same way inside, but I've got ways that I don't have to be abusive and mean to other people in the process of that. I've learned how to do things differently. Now, that's a positive from a negative, which is how I try and live my life now. I've had a lot of negatives in my life, and I've been a negative thinker. I'm my own worst critic. Trust me, as much as my kids and my ex-wife are mad at me for the abuse that I laid down on them, nobody is harder on me than me. If you're up in here, you would know. Nobody is harder on me than me. There are days when I don't think I've forgiven myself, and that's part of this process.
So the word I was actually looking for was transmutation,
Transmutation. Yes.
which is the act of changing or the state of being changed into another form. So what you are being shifted, or what's going on with you being shifted into another form. It's not necessarily change, it's transmutation. It's something that happens. I wonder if you're changing something completely. Maybe transmutation isn't the right word now that I'm thinking about it. Anyways, words are important. I'll figure it out. Commuting, transmutation, that wasn't it either. Because maybe it's alchemy.
Alchemy
Sometimes.
changes. That's changing, lead to gold or whatever. So that's changing one substance to another.
But like what we're
Completely.
trying to say is like who you are, but then expressing it differently is what is the word I'm trying
That's
to get
what
to.
I
Is
was
like-
getting at. I
Yeah.
am still who I am. I will always be that person. I will always be a control freak. I will always tend to think and be those ways. But how I react is what I have spent the last 30 years learning how to do.
and where you focus that control is in a more useful manner than trying to
Yes.
control other people. You're like, well, how do I
You
control
can't
myself?
control other people. That's the whole point. I spent all
that's
that time.
punchline there.
Well, no, that's exactly the point. So I had to learn, and am still learning,
Because
how
it's
to
hurtful
control
to other people.
myself.
Yeah.
And it's I get frustrated, and that person comes out, and I don't even realize it. It's nice to have people by you that can say, "Hey, well, hey, what are you mad about?" I'm not mad about anything. Well, it sure as fuck sounds like it. Oh.
Because you're being kind of a dick.
And I need people to call me out on that. So I give people permission to do that. But then the hard work happens, because in the moment, I have to also allow them to call me out on it and not punish them for doing so.
Right.
See,
Which
so
is-
there's always
which is-
another step, which
Yeah.
is it all correlates into this same thing for me. This is different pieces of the same bricks for the path I'm building. Does that make sense? The pieces of
Same
my
bricks,
broken
different
past,
path.
the same.
Trying to
no,
build a
so
bridge.
it's different bricks, because
Mhm.
it's the bricks I'm building now, making now, and the bricks I've already made with changing who I was 30 years ago. But I'm putting them onto a directional path that I am making for myself to follow. Finding the passion makes me define that path and keeps the direction as true as it can be. So,
Being
Andy
intentional.
said that's directing or channeling your energy into something else.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I am doing, and I'm trying to do it in a positive way.
I wish I would have I wish I can remember what I was saying when he said at Curiosity Corner. Cellmates say that all the time because I bet you it's really funny, but I totally blew past it and missed it. Andy, refresh my memory.
He will.
What do cellmates say to each other all the time?
What I say to my cellmate all the time.
It wasn't me. I didn't do it.
Clink, I forgot. I'm innocent.
I'm innocent. Do you know a guy?
Oh my god. Too much fun. Yep. Oh wow.
Maybe
9 minutes. Holy crap.
That went fast. Okay.
That went super fast. I just looked up at that and went, man.
We got into it. We got into a lot of different things. We were kind of like living our day-to-day life while we're trying to figure out like what.
Well, that's okay because that's what we're doing anyway.
So I've got one more little clip, and it's from Jason Silva. I've showed one of his clips before, Shots of Awe. This is actually How to Find Your Passion, and it was inspired by Stephen Kotler. Jason Silva does an interview or a chat with Stephen Kotler that was just mind-blowing. You'll have to find it on the interwebs yourself. I don't know if I've said this, but I do on my channel, I have a playlist of the Flow Research Collective, and it's good jumping off point. There's a bunch of experts that come in there, and it'll help spark your curiosity because they have these really great conversations about flow state and not just...
Kind of like TED Talks, but shorter.
No, these are longer.
Well, in the whole of them, yes. But they're smaller bites.
Oh, there it is. Passion can be painful. Cellmates. Fair. Fair. See, it was funny. I knew it would be.
It was, yeah.
I knew it would
is.
be.
Yep,
All right.
is. Thank you, man.
So let's this like Jason Silva does some really great imagery. I just think it's a really beautiful. That's not. I want. Oh, okay. I want to. Oh, I have it shared already. Stop share. There we go. Then share.
Don't forget to
Then share screen. Shh. All the buttons. All the buttons. Is this it? Yeah, that's it. Okay, share that. Then I gotta add it to the stage. Where'd it go? Oh, it's up here. Okay, add to stage. Jesus Christ. All right, we got there. We got there. It's fine. It's about 2 minutes. That'll take us out.
So there was a wonderful article by Stephen Kotler published in Forbes about how to find your passion. It's a question we ask ourselves every single day. We've all been told that a life of passion is a life that means something. But how do we identify our passions? It's not always easy. So one of the things that Stephen Kotler breaks down is that he says that passion essentially exists in the intersection between multiple things that you're curious about. So he says the first thing you should do if you want to identify your passion is to make a list of all the things that you're curious about, all the things that you wonder about. Be as specific as you can, and then create kind of a Venn diagram and try to figure out where the things that you're curious about, 3 or more, intersect. And that's the sweet spot. That's where there is energy. That's where there is dopamine and neurobiology. Multiple streams of curiosity intersect at a space called passion, right? And then once you've identified your passion, then you can figure out how to turn that passion into a purpose. To turn that passion into a purpose, make a list of 15 things in the world, 15 challenges you'd like to see solved. And then figure out which one of those challenges can be served by your passion. So then you see, curiosity leads to passion. Multiple streams of curiosity leads to passion. Identifying problems in the world that can be served by your passion leads to purpose. And then, my friends, you've impregnated your life with a sense of significance, with a sense of meaning. And then you can go forth, my brothers. You can go forth. I thought it was a great article. Take note, Stephen Kotler's work, Flow Genome Project, How to Find Your Passion and Your Flow.
Very cool.
Really thinking about what Camellia said about not needing to make a list. And I think that I'm going to agree to disagree. I think that you can survive without a list, but I think if you want to get there to
And
a
if
place
it's not
where you can
something want, it's okay.
that's okay too. But for me, it's like this driving thing to be able to articulate, not to the world, but to myself, what my substance is. Like, I know who I am, but what is my substance? What is the particles that I'm going to leave behind? The little ideas, the bits and pieces. With total strangers. My family won't remember me. Well, I know that legacy.
Well, at least for a generation or two.
Yeah. But like, what is a ripple that I can start while I'm here that'll last after I'm gone?
Mm-hmm.
And not like in a history book sort of way, but in like a more intimate sort of personal way to people. Mm-hmm. And in order for me to be able to articulate that out into the world, articulating it to myself is where I need to start. And I think that's my ultimate goal is to try and encourage people to articulate what they're curious about in order to play with what they're passionate about, in order to understand that we all have a purpose. We might not be Elon Musk's. We may not
Thank
be
goodness for that.
Whatever. Pick a person that's famous that you admire. You know about them because they have some sort of notoriety. Mm-hmm. But just because you don't have a notoriety doesn't mean that you don't have an articulated purpose that whose essence will be captured.
I believe for me, finding that purpose and finding this passion and going through this process is going to be in and of itself a reward. Finding that and narrowing it down and going through the work to do that will be its own reward. And from it will come a whole new list for me to explore and continue on. I don't see me not being curious. Look, I wasn't even trying and I found all this shit. So, really, now that I'm looking, now that I'm paying attention, now that I'm seeking someone, yourself, to guide me, encourage me, whatever, and go through this with and talk about it.
Possibly punch you in your face till you do your homework.
Yeah, exactly. Which I was terrible at. Now it's finally taken hold. I think I'm becoming excited, finding the curiosity about the books and the things, if that makes sense. I'm rambling, I know, but it's
No, it does make sense, because it's like, I think if people don't ask you, or if you don't actively ask yourself, you can exist and you can make a difference, and people, but will you have felt like you lived or endured? I want to live. Enduring.
I wanna feel like I lived.
Yeah. Enduring feels like a drudgery to me. And it's just words. It's semantics at this point.
Right.
It is semantics at this point. But I want to be able to say I am living, not I am existing, not that I'm enduring, not that I'm muddling through.
Yeah. I did that for the last 5 years of my life.
Yeah, I want to make mistakes because I am trying to live.
Absolutely.
As opposed
Absolutely
to
agree.
trying not to make waves. Cats are committing curiosity side. Yes, I listen. It's fine.
That needs to. You need to write that down. That needs to be on a T-shirt. That is a fucking T-shirt right there. It just needs to say curiosity side. I'm serious. Okay.
I'm trying to right now. Like, I got really quiet because I was trying to figure out how to work it into a tagline on my channel.
You can do that later.
Without getting banned from YouTube.
Write it down.
I know, right? I'm like, can I do with that? Did you see how like I got real quiet for a second? I was
saw
like,
the rabbit hole was beginning to open up. If you
like
can't have fun doing
grinding.
what you do, then don't do it, because that's what we're doing right now, is having fun.
Well, and even if you don't have fun doing it, do it with purpose.
Mm-hmm. I believe that
Like-
that will get you to fun at some point. Satisfaction.
Or at least intention while you're
yeah.
not having fun.
Yeah.
While things are shitty.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Listen.
If I can do things to make things better now when I'm financially screwed and struggling, how much better is it going to be once I get past the financially screwed and struggling, and I'm not financially screwed or struggling anymore? Now I'm on an even keel. How much what's going to change? How much better can it get? What else can I find to do? That, if you couldn't tell, excites me.
Right.
The thought of what might be, even though I have no idea what that is exciting. That's part of feeling alive.
And if I'm going to make mistakes, I want it to be in a scientific process sort of way so that I can identify the component that I want to switch out to try to do next time to see if I'm going to make the same mistake or not. Life is an experiment.
3%.
Right?
That's a pretty good offer.
3%.
That's a pretty good offer.
3% of zero is
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. 3%. That's a good
done.
offer.
Done. I'll give you 3%. I'll give you 30%.
Bam. Anyway, sorry, that was just.
This is now a verbal contract that has been set out on the internet. And if I ever get a membership, Auntie Ad Jack's going to be like, I bet you that tagline helped you a lot, huh?
Hey, Beast, where's my money? I gave my address and everything. You gotta just give me that envelope.
Just give me that envelope. Yeah, but I mean, like, I don't know. I think if the more I know about what I'm curious about, the more I understand what I'm passionate about, the more shit goes sideways. Because it will go sideways.
Sure.
As
Always
things
does.
go
It's life.
sideways. And it's not always because of what I've done. It's circumstantial. Sometimes it's outside of my control.
Yeah.
But if I intentionally set out these little markers, then I'm going to be able to distinguish those patterns in my life that move me forward as opposed to the patterns that make me upset, that make me angry.
There's a girl out there that said, moving at the speed of life. I don't know if anybody remembers that little country girl, but she's a good singer. I recommend you listening to it. But the song is about how quickly things can change, how quickly we can become overwhelmed. It's the whole 2 paychecks away from being homeless process and those kinds of things. And the reality that people have to live in is much the same way. And I love the analogy.
Yeah.
Keeps me humble.
Keeps me humble, but also makes me want to... It makes those times bearable if I can articulate what it is that I'm curious about and what I'm passionate about. It makes that fear 10% easier to endure.
I gotta tell you about something.
Oh yeah, that's right. And we've
We're
rambled on for an hour and 12 minutes. We're gonna let everybody go. I encourage you, even if you don't think you need a list of what you're curious about, I encourage you to make a list of what you're curious about. Be specific as possible. Maybe writing it down and reading it will unlock something that you didn't know you had inside of you. And I think that we can all know who we are without a list. But sometimes the act of listening or writing in general shows us things that we don't know about ourselves.
I would agree with that.
And that's why it's a challenge. That's why we're challenging you all to take the time to do that, even if you don't think you need it. Be curious about what it could potentially reveal to you, even if you think it's nothing. Just saying.
All right, Claire's our outro.
Here's our outro. We're gonna end it there.
The night says hello with the soft glow. We took a ride on this talk show. Stories shared and secrets low. Time to linger, but we gotta go. Voices faded with the moon's call. Laughter echoed down the hall. Thoughts that flew like paper dolls. Wrap it up and let it fall. Turn the volume down low, my friends. This chatter's come to an end. Till we gather again and again. Let these moments extend. In the quiet, hear the clock tick-tock. Words won't stop, but we'll walk the walk. Dream a little till the next talk. Out of time, let's unlock. Turn the volume down low, my friends. This chatter's come to an end. Till we gather again and again. Let these moments extend. In the quiet, hear the clock tick-tock. Words won't stop, but we'll walk the walk. Dream a little till the next talk. Out of time, let's unlock. Turn the volume down low, my friends. This chatter's come to an end. Till we gather again and again. Let these moments extend. With open minds, now we drift on the book of fine. Page by page until we bind sweet goodbyes. Let's unwind.